The U.S. has accused Sudan's RSF militia of genocide, saying it has systematically murdered and raped members of certain ethnic groups in Darfur. The Biden administration has imposed sanctions on RSF leader Mohammad Hamdan Daglo, saying he bears responsibility for the actions of his fighters. Tens of thousands have been killed in Sudan since the war between the country's army and the RSF broke out almost 2 years ago. Political analyst Khair joins me now. She's the founding director of Confluence Advisory. Thanks for joining us. So these sanctions come after 20 months of fighting. Why is the U.S. acting now?
Well, the U.S. has been under tremendous pressure, both internally from Congress, as well as outside from civil society activists, from human rights organizations, to really make a dent in this impunity that we're seeing. And it's finally now come through a designation of this, and rather determination of what's happened in Sudan is genocide, and that the RSF have been responsible for a lot of these crimes. It, of course, also says that the Sudanese armed forces have also been guilty of war crimes. I think what's significant about this in terms of timing is that it comes right at the end of Biden's term. So effectively, he is not the one who's going to have to deal with the political repercussions of also mentioning the United Arab Emirates in the same designation. And his administration is not the one that's going to have to actually put in place some of the guardrails and some of the actual, practical implications of what these sanctions mean.
Well, that really is the question. I mean, if Biden is kicking the can down the road, what exactly does this mean for the RSF's leadership?
I think this unequivocally, hurts their ability to say we are a legitimate organization and we can have international credibility. Their credibility was shot with many people in Sudan before, almost as soon as this war started. But the aim of the game for the RSF really from the outset was to get international recognition, international credibility. Recently, there have been talks about setting up a government in RSF areas, and this really deals a heavy blow to those aspirations that government could eventually result in any kind of international recognition and legitimacy. So the timing is really helpful in terms of, pushing that kind of setting up of a government to a later stage, or hopefully getting rid of it entirely, because putting a government in place now in RSF areas effectively splits the country. So the timing is useful. But what I think we need to see is a lot more of a sense of what this looks like in practical terms, not just symbolically.
Now, you mentioned the United Arab Emirates there for a second, and they have been accused of backing the RSF. How crucial is external support to sustaining the conflict?
Well, the United Arab Emirates is one of the biggest backers of the RSF. It's probably the biggest backer by far. The Sudanese armed forces, conversely, has a whole different group of countries sort of supporting it, from Iran to Russia to Egypt to Saudi Arabia to Qatar and Turkey. But the RSF relies almost entirely on the UAE and some small support from a Russian paramilitary group, the Wagner group. So if the United Arab Emirates were moved to stop supporting the RSF, this would hamper the RSF's ability to keep prosecuting this war. I don't think that the UAE will be as moved to stop supporting the RSF simply because the United States has designated the RSF sort of actions as a genocide. We have seen that actually no international actor is moved by the suffering of Sudanese people, by the humanitarian disasters, by the atrocities committed by any of the sides. The political calculus here really for the United Arab Emirates is the resources that will continue to come out, and to what extent it can continue working with the RSF if the RSF will meet its demands. That goes for many of the other actors in the region as well. But for sure, what this designation does do is hamper the RSF's ability to say that they have the kind of future that they had imagined before.
All right, that was political analyst Khair from the Confluence Advisory. Thank you very much for your analysis.
Thanks, Aaron.